yesterday. It was the Rolling Thunder rally. And despite things being quiet on the campaign trail for Donald Trump, his Twitter account is anything but quiet. It's actually lighting up, especially after one of his biggest critics, the Weekly Standard's Bill Kristol, sent out this tweet reading, "Just a heads up, over the holiday weekend, will be an independent candidate, an impressive one with a strong team and a real chance." As we are now used to, this is Trump's response. It came on Twitter, and I'll quote Donald Trump. "If dummy Bill Kristol actually does get a spoiler to run as an independent, say goodbye to the Supreme Court." Quite something. Let's discuss with a senior advisor for the Trump campaign, Tana Goertz, also with us, CNN commentator and Hillary Clinton supporter, Bakari Sellers, and then Tara Setmeyer's also with us. She's in the middle of it all, wearing pink. Hello to you all. Tana, I just wanted to get you to respond. I feel like I have this conversation. It's a little like Groundhog Day. I have this conversation a lot, but Donald Trump typically attacks a person personally rather than the concept that the person is delivering that he finds displeasing. Is that ever going to change? Are we going to see invectives like dummy and fat person, and I can't even repeat all the ones that he's used, in order to make his point? Is he not able to make his point without the foolishness?
Well, of course Mr. Trump is able to make his point. He's made his point to millions of Americans that have gone out to vote for him, Ashleigh. It's just a matter of, if you attack Mr. Trump, he will come back at you and bring out your resume and talk about the things where you failed. So Mr. Trump definitely will be, more presidential, if that's what you want to call it. But the voters,
though, Tana, when does he said he was going to be more presidential. When does it start, and what's it going to look like?
Well, when people stop coming after him, when people stop attacking him,
Tana,
when people
you
realize...
never get a break from that as president. Look at the last 8 years. Look at every presidential administration. You are under the microscope. It is a critique machine. So is this just going to be the way it is? Because the criticism is not going to change. You don't get to rule fiat.
Well, Mr. Trump he's winning. He's doing it his way, and the American people are resonating with him. They're going out and they're voting for him, so it is working. And he is going to do it his way, and that way is winning. So he will most definitely continue to be himself, and if people don't want to be attacked, then don't attack Donald Trump.
All right, so Tara Setmeyer, the notion that Bill Kristol seems to be quite serious about fielding someone, the tweet may be short, but it seems very powerful. Is this actually the spoiler that Donald Trump is tweeting about? Would this possibly be a Republican spoiler?
Well, I'm fascinated, just like everyone else. This is something that's been the intrigue of a potential third party or someone else jumping into the race, from Ben Sasse to Mitt Romney himself. This has been going on for a couple of months now because voters are not satisfied with the option that we have in Donald Trump as our nominee. I mean, a Washington Post poll just came out last week that said 44% of the American people would be interested in a third-party candidate. So depending on who Bill Kristol puts forth, I think could be very interesting. I mean, we really haven't seen this much of an appetite for a third party in a long time than we've seen now. So it could absolutely have an effect. But I just can't get over the fact that Donald Trump and his supporters continue to explain away this petulant behavior. I've never seen someone so thin-skinned from New York in my life. He walks around and praises and brags about how he's a tough guy, he's a fighter. People like that about him. He's a tough New Yorker. But goodness gracious, if someone says anything critical or has a dissenting opinion, then he acts like a spoiled brat on the playground in 5th grade. This is not how a president has to behaves. This kind of temperament is unacceptable.
As Tana mentioned, it's working among his supporters. I guess we'll see how many of those supporters turn out.
Not a general election.
In November. Well, it remains to be seen. Bakari, I want you to weigh in on this idea of the third party, but not the one that Bill Kristol's tweeting out about. The Libertarians, who had a very big weekend. They finished their convention, their debates, they got their nominee, they have their vice presidential nominee, and it's one, popular Gary Johnson, former New Mexico governor, and former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld as the bottom of the ticket. Do the Libertarians, who, by the way, are polling around 10% right now and are on all 50 states' ballots, so that's important, do they draw from Republicans or do they draw from Democrats. Who are they more a spoiler for?
Well, I definitely think that they're more in line with the Republican Party. I mean, the libertarian branch of government are individuals that come to mind like Ron Paul and Rand Paul. It's hard for me to believe that someone from Bernie Sanders' camp, for example, would jump over Hillary Clinton and go all the way to Gary Johnson. I just don't see that being the case.
Well, legalize drugs and, you know, a woman's choice is a woman's choice. Those are definitely not Republican principles.
But what you find out is sometimes this arc that we have, it bends and it somewhat touches. You have a lot of Democrats who are in favor of the decriminalization of marijuana. That's not something that's that nuanced. However, when you get into some of the other roles the government plays, whether or not you're talking about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare for all, these type things, I mean, that is not a true, that is something that Democrats stand for and not something that libertarians fall in line with. But I do think that it's interesting. I think that this whole phenomenon is interesting. What Bill Kristol's talking about, what Gary Johnson's talking about, but none of that bodes well for the Republican Party in November.
All right, I'm going to have to leave it there, but thank you to all three of you, Tana Goertz, Tara Setmeyer, and Bakari Sellers. Nice to have you here on this Memorial Day. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All three of you, I appreciate it.